He thought it was just another shift in Asheville, a retired Navy SEAL now driving a local taxi, still figuring out what came after service. The morning felt ordinary, the kind that passes without leaving anything behind. A man opened the back door and slid into the seat. Before it could close, something small slipped through a dusty German Shepherd puppy, landing quietly beside him as if it had done this before. The man froze, then glanced toward the front. "That's not my dog," he said. Ethan caught it in the mirror. He reached back, ready to stop it. But the puppy didn't move. It let out a soft huff, and in that quiet moment, it didn't feel like it had picked the wrong car. Before we begin, share the city you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If this story moves you in any way, consider subscribing and being part of this journey. Now, let's begin. A soft May morning settled over Asheville, the kind where sunlight slips gently across quiet streets and the air still carries a trace of coolness from the night before. The city hadn't fully woken up yet. Neither had Ethan Cole. At 38, Ethan sat behind the wheel of his taxi, shoulders squared out of habit more than necessity. Years in the Navy SEALs had carved a certain stillness into him, controlled, watchful, always a step ahead of something that wasn't there anymore. Civilian life had been waiting for him for 6 months now. He showed up for it every day, on time, in silence. But something in him still lingered elsewhere. His movements were efficient, almost mechanical. The dashboard was spotless, the seat adjusted to the exact same position every morning. Even the way he checked his mirrors felt like routine from another world, slow, deliberate, scanning for threats that would never come. A man approached the car and opened the back door. He looked to be in his 50s, a bit worn around the edges, shirt slightly wrinkled as if the day had already taken something out of him. A paper bag rested in his hand, folded tight at the top. He slid into the seat with a quiet exhale, the kind that carries more weight than it should. The door hadn't fully closed. Something small slipped through the gap. A German Shepherd puppy no more than a few months old leapt onto the back seat with surprising certainty. Its coat was a dusty mix of black and tan, paws a little too big for its body, ears not quite decided on standing yet. It didn't bark, didn't hesitate. It simply turned once, then sat, like it belonged there. The man froze, instinctively pulling his legs in. His eyes moved from the dog to the front seat. "That's not my dog," he said, voice caught somewhere between confusion and disbelief. Ethan didn't turn around. His gaze stayed on the mirror. "Not mine," he replied. A brief pause. The man looked back at the puppy, then out the window, then back again, as if waiting for someone else to claim responsibility. "Well," he muttered under his breath, "that makes 2 of us." Neither of them reached for the door. The puppy remained still. Back straight, eyes forward. Not restless, not afraid, just present. There was something deliberate in the way it held itself, something that didn't match its size. Ethan tilted his head slightly, studying the reflection. He reached back, slow, controlled, the kind of movement meant to end something before it began. The puppy didn't retreat. It let out a soft huff, barely louder than breath, its ears lowering just a fraction, not in fear, but in acknowledgement. Ethan stopped, not because he had to, because something about that response didn't trigger resistance. It felt measured, intentional. "Stay," he said. The word came out the way it always had, low, firm, leaving no space for interpretation. The puppy didn't move, didn't even shift its weight. In the back seat, the man let out a short laugh, shaking his head. "All right," he said, leaning back slightly, still keeping a careful distance. "That's new." Ethan pulled his hand forward, resting it back on the wheel. For a moment, no one spoke. The engine hummed softly beneath them. Outside, the city moved at its usual pace, cars passing, a distant pedestrian crossing the street, morning unfolding without noticing what had just happened inside this one vehicle. Ethan checked the mirror again. The puppy met his gaze this time, held it. Then, almost as if the moment had been settled, it turned its head toward the window. The man in the back shifted, adjusting his bag, stealing another glance. "You just letting it ride?" he asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. His fingers tapped once against the steering wheel, a small habit that had followed him out of service. Then, quietly, "It's not causing a problem." The man considered that, then nodded to himself, as if that was reason enough. Fair point. The car eased forward, merging into the morning traffic. The puppy stayed where it was. Ethan kept his eyes on the road, but his mind didn't stay there. 6 months behind the wheel had already shown him more than he expected. He'd driven a man who argued with someone on speakerphone for 20 minutes, then tipped extra, like that settled things. A woman once got in with 3 half-dead houseplants and asked him to drive slower because they were still adjusting to the move. One night, a college kid paid him to circle the same block 4 times, just so it would look like he hadn't gone home early. People brought their own kind of strange into his car. He'd gotten used to that. But a dog climbing in like it had a destination, that was new. Ethan glanced at the mirror again. The puppy sat steady, quiet, like it had already made its decision. Ethan held its gaze for a second, then shifted his hand back to the wheel. The meter was already running. Another pickup was coming up in a few minutes. He had a shift to finish, and a dog wasn't about to change that. The car rolled on. By the time the sun had fully settled over Asheville, the quiet had started to thin out. Traffic picked up, sidewalks filled, and Ethan's shift moved into its rhythm. The puppy leaned by the window, relaxed, taking in the streets like it was showing him around. Ethan knew what he was supposed to do. Pull over. Get it out. Take it somewhere animal control, a shelter, anywhere but here. That was the right call. The responsible one. He checked the clock on the dashboard. 3 minutes until his next pickup. His fingers tapped once against the wheel, then stilled. He kept his eyes on the road a second longer than needed. He'd deal with it after the next ride. Just one. That turned into another. Then another. The first passenger after that wore a faded flannel shirt, shoulders broad enough to fill the back seat before he even settled in. There was a faint smell of engine oil that came with him, the kind that never really leaves. His hands rested on his knees for a moment, rough and worn. Then he glanced once at the dog. He didn't ask anything, just reached out and placed his hand on the dog's head. The weight of it was steady, grounded. Then he let out a long breath, the kind that comes from somewhere deeper than the lungs. The dog answered with a low chuff, quiet but even, like it met him halfway. The man kept his hand there for a few seconds, then nodded slightly to himself and leaned back. Ethan caught the moment in the mirror. He didn't interrupt it. The next passenger came in already half on camera. Early 20s, everything about her set up to be seen, makeup clean, hair in place, the glow of her phone reflecting in her eyes before she even shut the door. Oh my God, wait, is that a dog? She lifted the phone higher, framing the shot, smiling into it. Guys, you're not gonna believe this. Her voice carried easily, bright and practiced. Then the dog leaned in, just rested its head against her wrist. Light contact, nothing more. Her voice stopped. The phone hovered for a second, then lowered. Wait, she said, softer now. This is actually nice. She turned the camera off. For the rest of the ride, she didn't pick it up again. Her shoulders dropped, just a little. The smile that stayed wasn't for anyone watching. Ethan noticed that. Around 11:30, he picked up a man in a tailored suit, heading to Bank of America Plaza, 32nd floor. The man stepped in, brushed the seat with his hand before sitting, then paused when he saw the dog. There's a dog in this car. Ethan met his eyes in the mirror. Yeah, this isn't appropriate. The man shifted slightly, keeping space between himself and the back seat, hands resting together like he preferred things untouched. The dog turned toward the window, following the passing buildings. The car went quiet after that. Ethan kept his pace steady, eyes on the road. For the rest of the ride, the space felt different. And for once, the man in the suit wasn't the one deciding how it would go. Ethan drove on. The last passenger didn't make it far. He stepped in quickly, shirt pressed, movements efficient, eyes scanning the space before he fully sat down. There's a dog, he said immediately. I'm allergic. A short cough followed. Then, another. He pulled out his phone without waiting. Yeah, I'll need another ride. He stepped out before Ethan could respond. The door shut behind him, sharper than necessary. For a moment, the car felt quieter than before. The dog let out a soft whine, low, almost under its breath. Ethan heard it. His hand stayed on the wheel. He didn't turn around, but he registered it. That sound didn't carry fear. It felt closer to a question. He drove on. 4 passengers. 4 different reactions. Ethan glanced at the mirror again. The dog sat where it had been all morning, watching the road through the window. Something about it didn't line up with what he expected from a stray. It wasn't reacting blindly. It wasn't guessing. It was answering. And somewhere between those short rides, Ethan started to realize this dog wasn't just along for the ride. It was reading people. By noon, the heat had settled over Asheville in that slow, heavy way. Ethan pulled over near the river and cut the engine. For a moment, he just sat there, listening to the ticking metal under the hood and the faint movement of water somewhere beyond the guardrail. The dog stayed close. Ethan unwrapped what was left of his sandwich, tore off a piece, and held it out. The dog took it gently from his fingers, then another. No rush, no grabbing, just steady. Ethan watched longer than he meant to. "Yeah," he muttered. "You've done this before." His hand moved to the collar. He turned the tag between his fingers, feeling the worn edges. He flipped it. 27 Maple Ridge Drive. The words didn't feel random. "So you do belong to somebody," he said quietly. The dog lifted its head slightly, a soft breath through its nose, then settled again. Ethan looked at the time. He still had hours left. He let the tag fall back into place, started the engine, and pulled away. He'd deal with it later. The afternoon didn't come back all at once. It eased in. There was a Korean student heading to the community college library, voice low, repeating formulas under his breath like he couldn't afford to lose them. His grip on the pen was tight. His knee bounced. Everything about him carried that thin edge of someone close to breaking under pressure. He barely noticed anything else. Then the dog leaned in, brushing the back of his hand. The words stopped, just stopped. The student blinked, looked down, then let out a short laugh that sounded like it surprised him. Okay. The dog gave a soft huff, almost like it understood. The pen tapped once against the page, then stilled. He stared at the notes for a second, then closed the notebook completely. By the time they reached the library, he wasn't rehearsing anymore, just sitting there, shoulders lower, breathing slower. Before stepping out, he paused and scratched the dog behind the ear. "You're better than coffee," he said quietly. Then he left. But after him, a woman in gym clothes got in, heading to Equinox downtown. Her phone lit up immediately, numbers, steps, calories. Her thumb moved fast, adjusting, correcting. When she noticed the dog, her expression tightened. She shifted closer to the door, didn't say anything, but it was there in the way she held her bag, the way her shoulders stayed tense, the way her eyes flicked back every few seconds. The dog didn't approach. It stayed where it was, calm, breathing slow, giving her space. That seemed to unsettle her more. Her thumb hovered over the screen, then stopped. The app stayed open, but she wasn't looking at it anymore. At a red light, she looked back again, longer this time, like she was trying to figure something out. The dog didn't move, didn't react, just stayed. By the time they reached Equinox, her phone screen had gone dark. She sat there for a second, hand on the door. "I still don't think this belongs in a cab," she said, but her voice had softened. Less certain, she stepped out, closing the door more gently than expected, and walked toward the entrance at a pace that didn't match how she'd come in. Then there was a biker, tattoos climbing up his neck, jacket worn thin from years on the road, the kind of presence that made people decide things about him before he spoke. He got in, saw the dog, and paused. Something in him shifted. "Hey, easy there." His voice dropped, softer than it had any reason to be. He reached out with both hands, slow, deliberate, then lifted the dog like it mattered. Careful, balanced. The dog gave a low chuff and settled against him. The man let out a breath that almost turned into a laugh. "Had one like you," he said, mostly to himself. "Rottweiler." His thumb moved absently along the dog's side. "Mean to everybody but me." There was a break in his voice there. Small, easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. After that, he didn't say anything else. He just held the dog the whole ride, eyes fixed somewhere past the window. When they reached his stop, he didn't move right away, just sat there for a second longer. Then he set the dog back down gently. "Take care of him," he said. He left cash up front and stepped out without looking back. And then, near the end of the day, a single mother got in. Her phone was still pressed between her shoulder and ear, a grocery bag hanging from her wrist. Her voice sounded worn thin, like the day hadn't given her a break yet. A small boy sat beside her, already drifting. He tried to stay awake for a while. Didn't make it. Halfway through the ride, his head tipped over and came to rest against the dog. Ethan caught it in the mirror. His grip on the wheel shifted slightly. The mother noticed too. Her hand came up, almost reaching for him, then paused in the air. She let it stay. The dog held still, its breathing slow and even, carrying that small weight without pulling away. The boy settled deeper into sleep. The woman leaned back in her seat, eyes staying there longer than they had anywhere else that day. Something in her face softened. She ended the call without finishing the sentence. The phone slipped down into her lap and stayed there. When they reached her building, she took a quiet breath. "I forgot what quiet felt like," she said. Then, after a moment, "Thank you." Ethan gave a small nod. He wasn't sure which part she meant. The sun dropped lower. Orange light filled the car, soft and steady. Ethan's shift was coming to an end. He had driven 17 passengers that day. Most stepped out lighter than when they got in. 3 laughed out loud without warning. 2 stayed uncomfortable the entire ride. 1 left halfway through. 2 went quiet, staring out the window longer than they needed to. 4 tipped more than usual. 2 asked if the dog was available. A few took pictures. None of them caught the moment that mattered. The moment where something shifted small, quiet, and gone before anyone could hold on to it. Through all of it, the dog stayed. Ethan glanced at the mirror again. Still there. Still part of the car, like it had always been. He knew the rules. He knew this wasn't something he could keep doing forever. At some point, someone would make it a problem. His hand reached for the tag again. 27 Maple Ridge Drive. This time, he didn't let go right away. Ethan didn't drive home right away. The address stayed with him, pulling him out past the busier streets into a quieter part of town where the houses sat older and farther apart. When he found number 27, he slowed down without meaning to, then stopped. Half the house was gone. The porch sagged inward, boards stacked like someone had started tearing it down and never finished. A chair lay on its side near the steps, and tied to a wooden post, a length of chain. Still there. Ethan turned off the engine. The dog was already moving. It stepped down, crossed the yard without hesitation, and went straight to that post. Then it sat. Still, a low whine slipped out. Ethan stood a few steps back, taking it in. The place didn't feel abandoned in a clean way. It felt like something had been left unfinished. "You looking for the folks who live there?" Ethan turned. A neighbor stood by the fence, arms resting on the wood like he'd had this conversation before. "They move?" Ethan asked. "Had to," the man said. "Storm took the roof. Couldn't fix it. Packed up quick." Ethan nodded once. "They had a dog." The man's jaw tightened slightly. "Yeah," he said. "They did." A pause. They left him. Ethan's eyes moved back to the porch. For a second, his breathing changed, barely noticeable, but there. "I thought about taking him in," the man went on, eyes drifting toward the post. "But my wife, she's already got too much on her plate." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I figured maybe he'd wander off, find someone better, someone who actually has time for a dog." Another pause. "Better than me, at least." Ethan didn't respond. He just kept looking at the dog. Still sitting there, still facing a doorway that no longer led anywhere. Something in his chest tightened. Familiar, unwelcome. He'd seen men wait like that before, for orders that never came, for someone who wasn't coming back. He swallowed once, slow, then stepped forward. "Hey!" The dog turned. There was no confusion in its eyes, just something that had stayed too long. Ethan crouched slightly. "Valor," he said. The name settled between them. A soft huff came back. Ethan nodded once. "Let's go home." That night, Ethan just did what needed to be done. He ran warm water, rinsed the dust from Valor's coat, worked slowly, making sure he didn't rush it. Valor stood still the whole time, letting it happen. In the kitchen, Ethan set down what food he had. Valor ate everything. Steady, focused, like it had learned not to expect the next meal. Ethan leaned against the counter and watched. "Yeah," he muttered, "you're staying." The next morning, the office smelled like coffee and paper. Ray didn't look up at first. "Cole, I want him on the car." Ray looked at Valor, then back at Ethan. "No." Ethan didn't move. "Yesterday, I ran a full shift. That's exactly why I'm saying no." Ethan nodded once. Customers stayed longer, tipped more. No complaints filed. Ray leaned back. Doesn't mean they won't. Valor let out a quiet huff. Ray glanced down. This isn't a field op, Cole. I know. A pause. Sir, I'm trying to figure this out. Ray studied him a moment longer than usual. Then, 10 days. Ethan blinked. Trial. One complaint that makes it to my desk, he's out. Clear? Clear. Valor gave a short chuff. The first few days didn't feel like anything special. Then things started to shift. A woman got in one afternoon, eyes red, voice tight from holding something back. She didn't say much. Halfway through the ride, Valor leaned slightly closer. A soft whine. She turned toward him, and that was it. Her face broke before she could stop it. She laughed once, embarrassed, then wiped her eyes. Sorry, she said. Valor stayed there, quiet. Another ride, two friends talking over each other, filling the space with noise. One of them leaned forward, joking toward Valor like he expected nothing back. Valor answered with a quick huff-chuff. Both of them stopped. Did he just? They laughed, but it wasn't the same kind of laughter as before. It lingered. Sometimes it was smaller than that. A short bark when someone raised their voice. A low breath when the car went quiet. Nothing unusual on its own, but over time, it added up. There was no trick to it. No training. No performance. Valor didn't do anything on command. He just responded. In ways people didn't expect. And somehow, in ways they seemed to need. A few days in, the video started moving. The influencer from earlier in the week had posted it, Valor tilting his head, answering her questions with a string of soft huff-chuff sounds. It spread faster than Ethan realized. Not because people thought the dog could talk, but because it felt like he was listening. Comments filled in. He understands. I wish my dog did that. This made my day. Within a couple of days, Ethan's schedule changed. More requests. More specific ones. Is this the car with the dog? Dispatch started flagging them. Not everyone liked it. Some passengers ended up in his car by chance. They opened the door, saw Valor, and went quiet in a different way. One asked to end the ride early. Another sat as far as possible from the back seat, arms crossed the entire time. But those moments passed. What stayed was everything else. Ray noticed. Didn't say it out loud at first. Then one morning, we're trying something. Ethan looked up. A few cars, Ray said. Different animals. Controlled. It wasn't a full rollout. Just a test. A golden retriever in one car. A lab in another. A smaller spaniel for tighter spaces. Someone even tried a poodle, less shedding. Fewer complaints. Later, a couple of drivers brought in cats. A Maine Coon that barely moved. A British Shorthair that ignored almost everyone. Customers could choose. Pet ride. Or standard. Simple. The numbers shifted fast enough that no one argued with it. 10 days passed. No complaints reached Ray's desk. One afternoon, a new passenger got in. He looked around once, then smiled. Is this the dog taxi? Ethan glanced at the mirror. Then at Valor. Valor was already looking out the window. A soft huff followed. Ethan turned back to the road. Yeah, he said. That's us. Outside, the city moved like it always did. Inside, nothing needed to be explained. A man who had learned to hold his ground. A dog who had been left behind, and now, neither of them had any intention of leaving first. There are days when nothing feels planned, when life simply places something or someone in your path without explanation. And maybe that's where grace lives. Not in the grand moments, not in the answers we ask for, but in the quiet interruptions, the ones we almost ignore. A small dog stepping into the wrong car. A man who wasn't looking for anything. Choosing to stay. If this story stayed with you, maybe it's not just a story. Maybe it's a reminder. To slow down, to notice, to be a little kinder than you have to be. If it touched you, feel free to share where you're watching from. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, you're always welcome here. May God watch over you tonight and bring you the kind of quiet you didn't know you needed.